Good morning, YouTube. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Trade Pros. I hope everyone's having a good Friday. We are going to be looking at a lot of things here. A lot of things happened yesterday. A lot of things happened overnight. There was a lot of news overnight. So let's break that down, and then let's get ready to wrap up the week with a good trading day. We got another day that's starting off pretty well so far. We're seeing some bullish behavior. We're going to talk about just why. But what I'm seeing is what I like about this morning is that there's 460,000 contracts traded so far on the S&P 500, which is a substantial increase from what we've seen in the summer months. So let's break it down. What happened overnight? What happened this morning? What happened in the markets yesterday? So in Asia, Japan down 1.1%, Hong Kong down 1.3%, and China down 0.9%, with India down 1.5%. Europe midday, London up 0.8%, Paris up 1 full percentage point, and Frankfurt up 0.4%. Futures on the U.S. front this morning, Dow was up 0.8%, Nasdaq up 0%, Nasdaq about flat, sorry, and the S&P up about 0.6%. We also saw crude oil up just slightly, 1%. But right now, since then, we've dropped about 80 cents. So we're flatlining a little more there. We're down, not down, but we're up less than 1% now. Gold is up 0.4%. Right now, it's getting beat up. So that number is now oblivious, moderately flat, actually kind of down. We're printing 1923 right now on the dot. In today's news this morning, we had the non-farm payrolls. Non-farm payrolls came out at 8:30. We traded that with our team. There was some slight opportunity. It wasn't the craziest of news events, but we saw some decent opportunity. One of the trades actually just played out about 5-6 minutes ago from that retest of the 65s. So great work there. What we saw in the non-farm numbers was 1.37 million versus the 1.4 million in the non-farm employment change. So they were expecting 1.4 million change adding to the jobs numbers. We got 1.37, so slight miss on that front. Last month was 1.7 million, something of that nature. And then the unemployment numbers, 8.4% versus the 9.8% expected. So unemployment's down, meaning that's good. Generally for the economy, which we saw some upside of this market. We haven't seen that extended of a move, but we got a little pump to the upside. We stalled from dropping more. Now, let's talk about yesterday. Let's talk about overnight. Tech stocks that have been powering the U.S. equity market higher to record highs day after day. What we're looking at is so we got Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google, so Alphabet, all ripping to fresh highs and pulling the stock market with it, especially Apple. A $2 trillion market cap just saw a split, moderately overvalued, some might say. But these tech companies were leading the charge. They were leading the way higher in the equity markets, and that's what propelled NASDAQ to record highs. That's what pushed the S&P to create record highs. And we saw that sharp pump to the upside this summer, right? But we saw a very strong reversal yesterday. NASDAQ down nearly 6%. S&P down about 3%. The S&P down nearly 4% from its all-time high, and Dow down nearly 3%. So Apple and Tesla contributed to a big portion of those losses, falling over 8%, while Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, and Microsoft, so Microsoft not in the FANG, but consider one of the big guys, they also closed a lot lower, right? The Apple is down now, 13% off its highs. We've seen drastic drops. Futures were still red at the start of the night, though contracts tied to the Dow and the S&P have changed directions overnight just slightly. And we saw a slight little pop off that overnight low, while NASDAQ erased some of those losses. It's still under that 12,000 level. We're still seeing troubles and struggles in that market. So traders are closely monitoring today's non-farm payroll action, as we saw today. Two of the major job labor market reports, which we saw this morning, slight mixed signals. These reports have not been as good recently as they were months ago, even years ago, and they're just not presenting too much volatility, even in these current circumstances and situations. There are decent movements, but I'm not seeing what I used to see, like let's say a year ago, where we'd get multiple trades. Today, maybe 1, 2 trades, 3 trades max on the higher end. And one of the best trades that we were monitoring just came to fruition about 3 minutes before 9. So these figures could add pressure on the White House and the Democratic leaders to restart the stimulus negotiations, which have been stalled for weeks over the size and scope of the next fiscal package. And as we've seen, jobs numbers weren't added as expected. Unemployment did drop, so maybe that could kind of balance it, give us some more mixed signals, and kind of flatline those negotiations again without pressing them to continue the stimulus. Now, the tech the tech bloodbath is still being analyzed by analysts and traders alike, with opinions spanning and spectrum as to what drove this market sell-off. Some are pointing to profit taking, the retail bros, quote unquote, and the long due breather, while others are drawing attention to record valuations and a rotation out of tech. So how long will it last? That's the real question. That's also a matter of debate. Was it just a flash crash or a start of the correction signal in terms of shifting sentiment? So we could make it for both, right? The biggest, I think, case would be rebalancing towards the end of this quarter. We've seen substantial gains in tech. So those who are long tech, asset managers, whatever they are, institutionals, they're thinking, okay, well, let's take some profit, let's rebalance, let's put some money into other assets that are supposed to see this money, that haven't seen this money. So let's just kind of shift back and maybe pull tech back to a more standard valuation, if you will. There's a lot of cases for this. Will this turn into a 10% drop in the S&P, or will it just be maybe a 5-6% little push down, and then we get right back to record highs, right? We don't really know. Past the 10% mark, then we start getting a little more scared. So that could come out 3,200. I don't see it coming out that fast today. That would ensue a near 300 point drop in the S&P. However, we have to watch it because we're coming into a long weekend. And we're also, markets are closed on Monday. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. But it's going to be a long waiting period, and we're going to see how it reopens on Tuesday. As typically, based on seasonality, to mention this, September is typically a down month, as we see a lot of rebalancing and people coming back from the summer and thinking, hey, this might be too high. Hey, this so-and-so, right? So careful, keep in mind that little fact. Obviously, it doesn't have to turn you into a September bear, but it's just something worth noting. So the Dow Jones plans to bring an antitrust case against Google in the coming weeks. Sorry, the DOJ, not the Dow Jones. The Department of Justice, DOJ, bringing antitrust case against Google in the coming weeks after Attorney General William Barr overruled career lawyers who hope to have more time to build the case, NYT reports. So some of the vulnerabilities they were worried about had to do with the part that focused on Google's search practices, while other attorneys probing Google's online ad businesses wanted more time to deal with complexities there. A coalition of 50 states and territories currently support antitrust actions against Google, reflecting an area of board and bipartisan support. So it's going to be interesting. We saw Sander, the Google CEO, what was it, a year ago, and very recently stand trial. They were probing about the antitrust and a lot of the search stuff, and it was all there in the agreement that people accepted. So we'll see how this continues and how they continue with that. Yeah, it could be a buy the dip opportunity. I'd wait out today, see how it is. I don't personally like to buy the dip into the weekends, especially long weekends. We'll see. Should the carnage continue, or are we just going to flip back above the 3,500 like nothing happened? In terms of more tech news, Apple is postponing a privacy feature in its upcoming iOS 14 release until early 2021 that would prompt users to consent to having their behavior tracked on an app-by-app basis. So critics of the change, like Facebook, expect most users to opt out, and said it would hurt app makers by making it harder to sell personalized ads. So we want to give developers the time they need to make necessary changes, an Apple spokesman said, and in a statement, more information, including an update to the App Store review guidelines, will follow this fall. Will it's going to be interesting. I'm going to have to see how it opens up because yesterday the downside opened up after the first 30 minutes of the session. So we're going to have to see how the morning session kind of plays out. Then we can start making adjustments. Hey, is this thing going to rip into the close, or are we going to see a brisk sell off? If we start selling off under that 25, 34, 25 earlier on, I really don't see this thing ripping into the close. For it to rip into the close, I need to see a lot of bullish behavior in the morning. So let's see how that pans out. In terms of more tech news here, we got the Trump administration looking at banning Chinese apps that could pose a threat to national security. So White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows said late Thursday. An upcoming ban of TikTok in the US has prompted flash takeover talks with parties including Microsoft, as we know, and Walmart, as well as Oracle, though negotiations are said to have stalled after China updated its technology export restriction list in a bid to counter the US restrictions. So Beijing is also planning to develop a set of sweeping government policies to develop its domestic semiconductor industry. In terms of Facebook won't accept new political ads in the week heading into the US presidential election. So, in an effort to limit the spread of misinformation, we've seen a lot of that on Facebook. So, I guess them kind of stepping in and trying to do this one good thing isn't the worst of ideas, right? So, the new rule only applies to purchase made that week. So, not ads purchased now and scheduled for that window. So, if you purchase now, oh, my hair's a mess. If you purchase ads now and schedule it for that window, they won't be blocked or affected. But if you're trying to pump out new ads that week, they won't be accepted. But I don't know, mixed feelings about this. So this is Facebook's other new election efforts, including partnering with Reuters to provide live official election results and plans to add a label to any candidate or campaign post that tries to declare victory before the official declaration. Interesting. So, senior Downing Street figures are putting the chances of a Brexit trade agreement with the European Union at a deal at 30 to 40%, according to The Times. So the two sides are loggerheads over state aid, with no sign of either London or Brussels preparing to compromise ahead of a quote-unquote critical negotiation round next week. So Boris Johnson has also demanded that the British fishermen double the size of their catch from coastal waters, though EU negotiators feel that would lead to a loss of 1 in 3 fishing boats in Europe. So thanks, Krister. Yeah, I know it's a mess. Might have to get a haircut. So there was a lot of news, a plethora of news here this morning. We saw a lot of data come in, and it's going to be an exciting day. It's going to be an exciting Friday to close out the week. I think there's going to be movement. There's going to be opportunity. Right now, we've got nearly 500,000 contracts traded on the S&P, which is really good compared to what we've seen recently. 300,000, 250, kind of sucked over the weeks that we've seen most recently. And now that we're getting that influx in volume, there's going to be movement, there's going to be opportunity, and we're going to jump in the trading room and take advantage of that. So we got oil shaping up for some potential movement, kind of climbing to the downside here. S&P, NASDAQ shaping up for some decent movement. S&P slowly grinding higher. So we're going to see how that sorts out throughout the day session. And thank you, YouTube. We'll see everyone next week.